Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a wild GTA San Andreas theory that's been floating around for years. Is Woozie, aka Woozie, really blind? There's some pretty interesting evidence that suggests Woozie might be faking his blindness. For starters, the dude can somehow drive a car, and not just drive, but race. In the mission Woozie, he even challenges CJ to a race through the countryside. How does a blind man navigate twisting roads at high speeds? It's not just driving either. In Amphibious Assault, Woozie is seen playing blackjack. He claims to read the cards using braille markings. But come on, in a casino? That's a bit far-fetched. Then there's his shooting skills. During the Da Nang Thang, Woozie shows impressive accuracy for someone who can't see. And have you noticed how he moves around his casino in the city with surprising ease for a blind person? But hold up. Let's consider the other side of the coin. Woozie maintains his blindness throughout the game, even in private conversations with CJ. The game also explicitly states that Woozie is blind, and other characters acknowledge it. We should also consider that blind people in real life can develop impressive skills to compensate for their lack of sight. Plus, Woozie often mentions his luck, which could explain some of his seemingly impossible feats. So, what's the verdict? While it's fun to speculate, the theory that Woozie isn't really blind doesn't hold up under scrutiny. It's more likely that the game developers took some creative liberties to make Woozie a more interesting and capable character, even if it stretched believability a bit. In the end, Woozie's blindness is part of what makes him such a unique and memorable character in the GTA universe. Whether he's truly blind or not, you've got to admire the dude's style. Have you ever noticed how eerily empty Liberty City feels sometimes? Well, there's a theory suggesting that Claude might actually be living in a ghost town or an abandoned city. First, let's look at the evidence that supports this theory. Throughout GTA 3, Claude seems to be the only resident in his building. We never see neighbors coming or going, no one's hanging out in the hallways, and there's never any noise from adjacent apartments. It's like he's living in his own private fortress in the middle of the city. But it's not just Claude's living situation that's raising eyebrows. The streets of Liberty City often feel strangely deserted. Sure, there are pedestrians and cars, but compared to later GTA games, the population density is remarkably low. It's rare to see large crowds or bustling areas that you'd expect in a thriving metropolis. Adding to the ghostly vibe, many buildings in the game are inaccessible and appear to be empty. Windows are often dark or show no signs of life inside. This lack of interior detail could be interpreted as evidence that these structures are abandoned or simply facades in a city that's no longer truly inhabited. The theory also points out the lack of mundane city activities. We don't see people going to work en masse. No real sense of a living, breathing city going about its daily routines. It's as if the only people left are those directly involved in the criminal underworld or those unfortunate enough to be wandering the streets. Some proponents of this theory even suggest that the pedestrians and other characters Claude interacts with might not be real. They could be ghosts, hallucinations, or remnants of a city that once was, only appearing when Claude needs to interact with them for a mission or gameplay purpose. Now, let's take a step back and look at this theory with a critical eye. First and foremost, we need to consider the technological limitations of the time. GTA 3 was groundbreaking for its era, but it was still constrained by the hardware capabilities of the PS2 and early 2000s PCs. The seemingly empty city and lack of interior details were likely due to these constraints rather than a deliberate narrative choice. Furthermore, the game does show a functioning city to some extent. There are businesses operating, traffic on the roads, and various factions vying for control. These elements suggest a living city, albeit one that's not as densely populated or detailed as later GTA titles. The lack of neighbors and Claude's solitary living situation can also be explained by gameplay design. Having to navigate around NPCs in a small apartment building would likely be more frustrating than immersive for players. Next, one of the most iconic moments in GTA San Andreas, Big Smoke's infamous order at the Cluck and Bell drive-thru. But hold up. What if I told you this wasn't just about a man with a massive appetite? Let's break down the theory that Big Smoke's ridiculous order was actually a clever ploy to buy time for his gang to set up an ambush. CJ, Sweet, Ryder, and Big Smoke roll up to the drive-thru, hungry after a long day of gang activity. But instead of a quick bite, Big Smoke drops that legendary order. 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda. Now, we all laughed at the sheer absurdity of it, but what if there was more to it? The theory suggests that Big Smoke knew the Ballas were on their way to attack them. By placing this massive order, he was intentionally slowing things down, giving the rival gang time to get into position. It's a pretty slick move if you think about it. Who would suspect a food order could be part of a setup? Let's look at the evidence supporting this theory. First off, we know Big Smoke turns out to be a traitor later in the game. This scene happens early on, before his betrayal is revealed, so it could be one of his first acts of deception against the Grove Street families. Secondly, the timing is suspicious. Right after they leave the drive-thru, they're ambushed by the Ballas. Could this be a coincidence, or was it all part of Big Smoke's plan? The theory also points out how Big Smoke doesn't seem too concerned about the attack when it happens. He's surprisingly calm for someone who's just been ambushed, which could indicate he was expecting it. So, what do you think? Was Big Smoke's order a 4D chess move, or just a case of extreme munchies? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, next time you're at a drive-thru, maybe think twice before placing a massive order. You never know who might be waiting to ambush you. Niko Bellic. Ever wondered why we don't see him in GTA 5? Well, some folks think it's because our boy Niko is still on the run, laying low to avoid the long arm of the law. Let's break this down and see if it holds water. So, the theory goes that after the events of GTA 4, Niko never really managed to shake off his criminal past. Despite trying to start a new life in Liberty City, his actions caught up with him, and he ended up back on the wanted list. This would explain his absence in GTA 5, and why we don't hear much about him. Now, the interesting part is that this theory isn't just pulled out of thin air. In GTA Online, some eagle-eyed players spotted a wanted poster that looks suspiciously like our boy Niko. It's not a clear shot, but the resemblance is there, and it's got fans buzzing. If this poster is indeed Niko, it would suggest that he's still considered a dangerous criminal, even years after the events of GTA 4. The idea of Niko being in hiding also fits with his character. Throughout GTA 4, we see that Niko is pretty skilled at staying under the radar when he needs to. He's got experience evading authorities from his time in Europe, so it's not a stretch to think he could successfully go into hiding if he needed to. This theory also provides a neat explanation for why we don't hear about Niko from other characters in GTA 5. If he's in hiding, it makes sense that even his old connections wouldn't know where he is or what he's up to. But let's pump the brakes for a second and look at this critically. While it's a cool theory, there are some holes we need to address. First off, at the end of GTA 4, depending on the player's choices, Niko can end up in a relatively peaceful situation. He talks about laying low and avoiding trouble. So, the idea of him suddenly being a wanted man again might not fit with every player's ending. Also, we've got to consider the real-world reasons why Niko might not appear in GTA 5. Different voice actors, storyline decisions, or simply the desire to focus on new characters could all be factors in Rockstar's decision not to bring Niko back. As for that wanted poster in GTA Online, while it's intriguing, it's not definitive proof. It could be an Easter egg or a nod to fans, rather than a concrete plot point. So, what's the verdict? While this theory is definitely interesting and adds some cool continuity between GTA 4 and 5, it's probably just that, a theory. Rockstar has kept Niko's fate pretty ambiguous, which allows for theories like this to flourish. Whether Niko is in hiding, living a quiet life, or off on new adventures we don't know about, his story has certainly left a mark on the GTA universe. This theory shows how invested fans are in these characters and their fates, even years after their games have ended. What do you think? Is Niko out there somewhere, dodging wanted posters and living off the grid? Or has he managed to finally find that normal life he was looking for? Next theory, how Trevor, Franklin, and Michael aren't just protagonists. They're living embodiments of GTA's entire evolution. Let's start with our boy Trevor. This dude is the pure chaos of the 2D era personified. Remember those top-down GTA games where you just go wild, blowing stuff up and causing mayhem? That's Trevor's whole vibe. His rampages, his unpredictability, his complete disregard for any sort of rules, it's all straight out of GTA 1 and 2. When you're playing as Trevor, you're basically experiencing those classic games in a modern 3D world. Now, let's talk about Franklin. This guy's story is pure 3D era GTA. He starts from nothing and climbs his way to the top, just like CJ in San Andreas or Tommy in Vice City. His missions, his hood background, his rise through the criminal ranks, it's all textbook 3D era stuff. When you're cruising around Los Santos as Franklin, you're reliving the glory days of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. Then we've got Michael. This dude is HD era all the way. His personal struggles, his family drama, his existential crisis, it's exactly the kind of deep character development we got in GTA 4. Michael's story explores the dark side of success and the cost of the American dream, themes that are central to the later GTA games. Playing as Michael feels like you're in a gritty crime drama, just like GTA 4 and 5. But here's where it gets really interesting. The way these three interact and come together is Rockstar's way of showing how all these eras blend to create the ultimate GTA experience. You've got the chaos of the 2D era, the rags to riches story of the 3D era, and the complex character drama of the HD era, all in one game. The proof is in the gameplay. Trevor's missions often feel like old-school GTA chaos. Franklin's missions follow that classic GTA structure of working your way up the criminal ladder. And Michael's missions often involve more complex setups and personal stakes, reflecting the more nuanced storytelling of recent GTA games. Rockstar didn't just stumble into this by accident. This was a deliberate choice to pay homage to the series' history while pushing it forward. They created these three distinct characters to represent the evolution of GTA, giving players a chance to experience the entire history of the franchise in one game. Trevor, Franklin, and Michael aren't just three random criminals thrown together. They're a living, breathing tribute to the history of Grand Theft Auto. What do you think about this theory? Does it change how you see the game? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more mind-blowing GTA revelations. Until next time, keep on gaming and stay awesome, Los Santos.